Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona El-Idrisi, author of the Muslim Narcissist book and empowerment coach for Muslims. In today's podcast, I'll be addressing a question, which is, why do people believe they had such low standards in relationships in the past, and why did they tolerate so much abuse? So this is a really important question to address because many people are unable to forgive themselves for it. And they will spend years and years and years beating themselves up over past choices. Even though it wasn't their fault, right? Because they weren't aware of narcissism at the time. They weren't aware of their own codependency. And, they weren't aware of their childhood traumas and so on and so forth. People learn about childhood trauma and personality disorders much later in life. But I am seeing, alhamdulillah, this generation is waking up to it earlier than we all did. But I do counsel so many people who struggle with moving on with their lives because they still hate themselves for being in an abusive relationship, tolerating so much abuse, marrying a narcissist, and being super codependent. Because when you heal from codependency, I promise you this, you'll look back on your codependent self and you'll wince, okay? You'll cringe because you just can't believe that was once you. But I don't want you to look back on that codependent self and hate that codependent self. You had to go through that journey. And the majority of codependent people are beautiful people, right? They've got good hearts and they've got loads of empathy and, they love putting people first and they're people pleasers and, they love serving others. There is a lot of beauty found in codependence. However, what makes codependence so weak is the fact that they have very low self-esteem and low self-worth, which enables demonic people to control them, abuse them, manipulate them, and have authority over them. So high-level empaths don't allow that. But codependence will allow it or subconsciously allow it, okay? So it's not done willingly. Most people will enter abusive relationships because they come from abusive families or because they don't know what love is. They don't know what an Islamic marriage actually should be like. So when they see someone abusive or display, striking red flags, they normalize them, they brush them under the carpet. That's codependency. And codependency is also relying on demonic people for validation because, like I said, they come from abusive families and more often than not, they will gravitate towards people who are similar to their abusers. So when they marry or befriend people who are similar to their abusers, like abusive parents or abusive siblings and uncles, and even bullies from school or college, many codependents subconsciously take it as an opportunity to prove their worth to those people because in their minds it's like they're proving their worth to their original abusers. So for example, a woman might marry a man who is just like her father because she wants to prove to herself that she can deal with this personality type and she can also be loved by this personality type. And that's why these women become people pleasers. And men do this too, okay? And that's why you'll find codependent men and women don't like being around empaths. And the reason for that is because they don't know how to deal with nice people, right? People who want to give to them, love them, nurture them, care for them. Codependents become very uncomfortable with that because all their lives they've had to work hard to gain people's approval and love and care and attention. So when it's given to them, they don't get any sense of satisfaction from it because in their minds it's come to them for free. So there's no sense of achievement in having the love of this person. Now, low-level narcissists are very similar to this, but low-level narcissists are lazy. The codependent, however, is very hardworking. Okay, the codependent will do anything and everything to make someone happy, even if it's at the expense of their own well-being. But a narcissist is not like that. A narcissist will put themselves first. They are incredibly selfish. They will never put anyone before them. And they're lazy. Okay, so they will not work hard for what they want. The low-level narcissists I'm speaking about here are the man children and the women children. So codependent women growing up will often attract men who are like their abusive parents, their abusive fathers, uncles, and brothers. So they are already programmed to normalize this behavior. Okay, so empathic children grow up not wanting to normalize this behavior. They want the complete opposite of this when they're older. But codependents become programmed to accept this behavior. And it's because they are rewarded by their parents for tolerating certain types of abuse and bad treatment. So they are already involved in a trauma bond from a very young age, and they just go from one trauma bond to another trauma bond. Okay, so they don't ever exit the cycle because they're used to being rewarded when they are patient with abuse or tolerate abuse. So they are rewarded with attention, affection, gifts, Islamic validation. Oh, Allah's pleased with you. You know, the Prophet ﷺ is happy with you. You're such a good Muslim for tolerating this and being patient with this. And your father is very happy with you. Your mother is now going to die, very happy with you. You get a lot of that when you're a child. So you will continue that in adulthood. That's how codependency continues, okay? And this is why so many young men and women who are codependents will come across empaths at university, at college, and these people might be interested in them for marriage. And codependents just can't go there, right? Empathic people would have given you the ick when you were younger. Like, oh, it's too nice, it's too kind, it's too sickly sweet for me. You want the tough people. You want those who you have to work hard for. You want those people who show you disrespect and don't give back, and they don't show you the same love that you give them or the same kindness. That's normal for you because you're so used to chasing others that this behavior later on becomes normal. Now, obviously, like I keep saying, codependents are not going to jump into a abusive relationship from the get-go. So in most cases, someone will love bomb the codependent into a abusive relationship. And when this happens, you get sucked in to this relationship and then later find out this person is highly abusive, but you're okay with it because you know how to deal with this personality type because you're used to it. And then you see that this person is a troubled person, this narcissist, and you want to help them because you were the caretaker growing up. You were the people pleaser. You were the one who served others. You were the one who was praised for helping people. So you take it on as a mission to fix and save this troubled person who could be a drug addict, who could have other types of addictions, who might be ill, who might have jinn possession or serious anger problems. Okay, whatever the issue is, you believe your self-worth lies in fixing and saving this person. So you tolerate. And when you tolerate, you justify staying by using the Islamic card, right? The God card. This is what a good wife should be doing. This is what a good husband should be doing. I'm going to go to Jannah for this because I'm helping someone. But at the same time, you are completely destroying yourself. But because you want to see the end of it, right? You want to see the outcome. You persevere in this relationship so that you can see the narcissist saved from all his issues or all her issues, and they can turn around and say to you, you are the most amazing person in the world. Look what you've done for me. I am a changed man because of you. I'm a changed woman because of you. Right, I've left my past because of you. I've done this because of you. I'm now a person who is close to Allah because of you. I'm a good Muslim because of you. This is what codependents are dying to hear. And they will wait 20 years if they have to. Because they want the efforts that they have put into this relationship to be fruitful. So they tolerate all this abuse, all this disrespect, all the cheating, everything because they have this delusional hope that the work that they are putting in to save this narcissist is going to pay off one day, and it's going to validate them. And then everything that they went through will be worth it. Okay, but underneath all of this, there is an underlying fear that they will fail, that they'll be alone, they'll be divorced, that they'll be this, they'll be that. So they stick with it. Okay. And this is a serious problem. And the only reason why so many codependents get into very abusive relationships is because they are very, and I mean very, naive to red flags. Okay, these are people who will fall for so much love bombing, even when the red flags are screaming at them. Okay, there'll be so many signs that come up in someone, in their character, that will tell you that they are not who they say they are. They're not a good person, right? They've got a personality disorder. They're hypocrites. And codependents will ignore them because the woman is so beautiful, or the man is so good looking, or he's got money, he drives a nice car, he's got a good job, he's got status, he's an influencer, he's someone famous, he's a preacher, he's this, he's that. So codependents are more likely to hold on to someone who gives them self-worth. Okay, so if I marry this good-looking woman, I raise my status in society. If I marry this rich man, I'll become a somebody. Right, I would have achieved something. So codependents rely on other people. That's where the term comes from. They are dependent on other people to build their own self-worth because they're not happy with who they are within themselves. They're not content with who they are, and they don't like who they are. They don't approve of who they are, right? They just see themselves as people who are unworthy of so much in this world, the same as narcissists. And that's why they're drawn to each other. Broken people are always drawn to each other. And when narcissists are drawn to empaths, it's because they see a nurturing parent in that empath. So codependents and narcissists, they make up the majority of relationships we see in the world. And it's because both of them are broken. And when you ignore red flags from the very beginning, you set yourself up for a lifetime of misery, because those red flags are like a trailer to a movie, right? You know, when you want to check if a movie is worth watching or not, you go to see the trailer. The red flags are the same. When you see them, it's like you're watching a trailer of what's to come from that person. Okay, that's the difference between codependents and empaths. Empaths will sit with someone, see red flags, and this can be, work colleagues, friends, a potential spouse. They'll see the red flags pop up and they will make a decision to not associate with that person. It doesn't matter how good looking they are, how rich they are, how funny they are, how famous they are, they don't care. They will move on from that person because they make them feel uncomfortable. But codependents are programmed to normalize this. This is why codependents need therapy. It's the toxic codependents who will jump into a relationship that is clearly abusive from the start. Okay, so toxic codependents love the toxicity of somebody. So it's not about them being naive to the red flags. Oh, they see the red flags very clearly and they know what they're getting into. The majority of codependents have no idea. They believe and fall for someone's love bombing. They believe that's love and ishq, what I was speaking about before. But toxic codependents, they know what they're about to get into. They know it's going to be as toxic as hell. But they like it. So a separate podcast, inshallah, coming about the toxic codependents because it's a completely different personality disorder. And it hangs in between narcissism and codependency, right? It fits right in there. So people who are toxic codependents will be in a completely different category. And inshallah, I will record a separate podcast about them so you can understand them more as well. So this week in my Instagram story, I asked everyone, this question of why do you feel you had such low standards in the past and why did you tolerate abuse? And I received over 200 responses that I would like to share. So I've grouped the main ones together and we will go through them inshallah in this podcast because I wanted people to answer this themselves as well so that we can understand the variety of reasons why people tolerated abuse, why they stayed in very abusive relationships, why they settled for breadcrumbs and the bare minimum, why they didn't have high standards for themselves, and sometimes they accepted below bare minimum. Okay, why did they do that to themselves? Why do they feel or believe they accepted such low standards, and why do they believe they deserved it? Okay, so the standards you set for yourself are the standards you believe you deserve. So it was very interesting to gain a deeper insight into where these feelings originated from. Okay, where did they come from? And why do people carry these painful feelings and beliefs into their relationships in adulthood? Because you can be codependent in so many different relationships, and the root cause will be how you view yourself as a person. Okay, so we'll take a dive, inshallah, into the responses I received. And just before I do that, as always, do like the podcast if you find it helpful. Do share it with people whom you feel could really benefit from this content. And do subscribe to the channel. Or sign up to the newsletter on the website if you would like to be notified of when I drop a podcast. If you need one-to-one counselling and coaching, if you need help with codependency, my email is below. And I've also provided a link to my website that has a form you can fill out if you want to apply for the one-to-one counselling and coaching service. And it's open for both men and women. And of course, if you haven't grabbed a copy of the book already, do grab a copy. It will really help you so much in understanding yourself and where all of your childhood traumas and beliefs and programming originate from. Okay? So I repeat this information in every podcast because new people join this channel every week, which I'm super happy about, alhamdulillah, as it means that people are finding the help and support they need. So please do share the podcast if you enjoy them and find them helpful. It really does make a world of difference to people. I mean, I get clients who say to me, I found you because my cousin sent me your podcast about this or that, and I really resonated with it. So you get the ajr, inshallah, for helping someone out and giving them relief and closure for their mental health problems and things they haven't been able to make sense of. Okay, inshallah, you'll get the reward for helping people because this channel has been created to help you make sense of your crises and your traumas and your relationships, okay, and who you are as people. So when you share this information, you can help people gain more knowledge about their situation and move on from it as well. Okay, when you understand what you've been through, you'll be able to move on from it. So thank you so much to everyone who has liked my podcast, shown that support and shared the podcast with other people. Jazakumullah khair for that. May Allah bless you all. Right, so let's jump into this and the responses I got. So the first response was, because I grew up seeing this as the norm and accepted the bare minimum until I matured. So as I said earlier, loads of people go through trauma bond cycles from childhood. So this pattern of behavior becomes very normalized. So you didn't have generous parents. You had to work for everything you wanted. If you wanted pocket money, you really had to work hard for it. And you weren't given the gifts you wanted on your birthday. So you get used to breadcrumbs. And when you enter an adult relationship with anyone and you enter a trauma bond cycle, the reason why you have hope in someone changing is because they show you snippets of the person they could be, right? The potential. So they will make sure that there will be intervals of love bombing, and that could be attention, love, care, gifts, whatever it may be that keeps you happy. They will give you short periods of that in between all the abuse to keep you hanging on to that hope that they will change one day, and with your help they're going to get better. And this really works for them because they don't have to invest much into the relationship. They can give you breadcrumbs of what you need in return for them getting so much help in return, so much support, so much care and so much love. And this isn't something they can buy from people. This is something that's given to them from an empathic person. Because even if you wanted that help and support, if you went to a life coach, it's expensive, right? If you're doing 5 to 10 years of life coaching, you're going to end up spending a lot of money. So they're getting it for free from someone who is constantly there to support them and hold them up, right? And pull them out of dark pits all the time. For what? For breadcrumbs and being subjected to abuse the majority of the time. Can you see how that would work? Very well. For a narcissist, there's no investment. There's no hard work. They get what they need for free because they can get away with being abusive and being stingy and being very low effort people. Okay, and unfortunately many people have parents like this. So when you're used to your parents being like this, it's likely that you will grow up to be quite codependent and you'll attract the same type of partner and the same kind of friends. And you might even get the same type of employer who completely takes advantage of you, gives you the bare minimum. You're not getting the salary you deserve, but because you're a people pleaser, you settle for less. Okay, you settle for less because you want to make everyone happy and you want to prove your worth in the workplace as being someone who is highly efficient and you get everything done on time and more, right? You go out of your way. So people take advantage of this. Employers are known for it. So childhood is a time when accepting the bare minimum becomes normalized. It becomes programmed into your psyche. So you feel bad for asking anyone for what you want and what you need because you fear rejection as well. You don't want anyone telling you no, because if they tell you no, you immediately translate it in your mind as you being unworthy, right? This person is not giving me what I want and what I need because I am unworthy of it. I don't deserve it. So instead of asking for what you want and what you need, you are happy to accept breadcrumbs because it doesn't make you feel unworthy. It makes you feel that this is the norm, right? You bury your head in the sand about it and you think this is the norm. I would rather go through life like this than ask for what I want and what I need and have it rejected. Because when I get rejected, it makes me feel bad about myself. It makes me feel like I can't get what I want and what I need for those reasons. When this is completely untrue, it's only because you've been around people who are very stingy and don't like investing in others, especially when they feel that they can get away with not investing. And the worst part of all of this is when your parents train you to believe that it's good Islamic manners to not ask for what you want and what you need. Okay, a good wife doesn't ask her husband for things and she only accepts what she is offered. That's it. You know, you can't be asking him to buy you this and buy you that, and do this for you and do that for you if it's not the bare minimum. Okay, if it's your basic survival needs that you're asking about, fine. Anything extra, no. A good wife stays silent. Right, it happens. And young girls grow up believing that they can't do that. I've seen preachers online say that, you know, a woman who asks her husband for things she wants, like, for example, gifts, jewelry, new clothes when she's already got clothes, she is a woman who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has cursed, right? She is a woman who is ungrateful because her husband is providing the basic minimum and she's ungrateful, and that's why she's asking for other things that are considered to be extras, not within her rights. So they always encourage men to never marry women like that, who aren't afraid to ask for what they want. These are men who need to be pulled off the internet and then be exiled to another planet, because they're all narcissists who don't want to invest anything more than the basic minimum in women, because they are stingy, they are lazy, and they are so far away from being examples of qawwamun that it's a joke. And they will guilt trip women into not asking for what they want and sometimes what they need as well, because they brainwash them into believing that this is what a good Muslim woman needs to do. And then they get upset when women listen to this advice that they're giving to other men and refuse to marry any man who is a low earner or who is broke. Of course they're not going to, because you've given women an indication that they're going to be kept like farmyard animals with you. Why would any woman want to get involved with someone like that, who believes that she is only deserving or is only owed food, drink, and a roof over her head, and it's not even a nice place to live in, right? It's tiny, it's cramped, there's nothing special about it, but she has to be grateful for it. But she could have a better life herself. So men are brainwashing women into accepting this, but then it backfires on them when single women don't want to marry these same men who are giving this advice out. And it's because they've got the IQ of a turtle, as they cannot think clearly about how this could potentially backfire on them. Okay, there's nothing in Islam to say that a woman can't ask for what she wants. And she most certainly has to ask for what she needs, because he is responsible for providing for her. And honestly, a real man, a real true qawwam, loves to spend on his women. He loves it. He loves spending on his daughters, on his nieces, on his wife, on his sisters. They enjoy it because they're generous, right? One of the traits of being a qawwam is generosity. And you will want your women to live as comfortably as possible, because it's where your value lies as a man, right? As a provider, you're there to make women's lives easier. And when their lives are made easier, your life gets better because they will look after you in return. Now, I'm talking about imperfect women here. Of course, as I've mentioned many times before, narcissistic women will never be grateful for anything you do for them. So I know men suffer from this as well, and they struggle to get what they want and what they need from women too. So it is a two-way thing, and the men who struggle will definitely be codependent. Okay, if you're struggling to ask for what you want because you keep getting rejected or ridiculed or laughed at or ignored, eventually you're going to stop asking for what you want and need. And you just make do with what you have to keep the peace and to keep the relationship going. Okay, but know that this stems from childhood. Okay, if you had a father like this or a mother like this, that's where you would have learned that this is normal, this is okay, this is something I have to be patient with because my mother was patient with my stingy father, or my father was very patient with my mother who didn't do anything for him. Okay, like I said, if you grow up empathic, you're not going to want that. If you grow up codependent, you will normalize it. So people need to start getting comfortable with asking for what they want and what they need, and not accepting scraps and breadcrumbs from people. So if these people are your friends, your husbands, your wives, your children, then you need to place very strong boundaries so that they are not getting what they want from you when they refuse to give you what you want and what you need, because you enable their behavior by giving them everything they want and need in return for breadcrumbs. You're not helping them to get better. So you need to withdraw what you're giving as well to place value on it, because what you give away for free has no value in the eyes of those who are taking advantage of it. So add value to what you're giving and let there be give and take in your relationships so that you can start getting what you want as well. It's not a one-sided relationship. This is not slavery. Okay, there has to be something in it for you as well. And it's easier said than done, I know. If you grew up codependent, this is very uncomfortable to do. Asking for what you want and need can be very uncomfortable, very awkward, and a bit scary. So this is why you need therapy. It will really help you to gain some confidence and place value on the supply people are obtaining from you. And then that's when you can start placing boundaries. Okay, it's a process that you need help with. It's not something that you can do on your own. A lot of people need the support in order to do this efficiently and without it backfiring on them, because if you do it in a wrong way, the narcissist can actually punish you for setting boundaries. So another response I got, which was similar, was I didn't believe I was worthy of more. I wasn't aware of my traumas and how they were playing out. I wasn't aware that I didn't have strong foundations within myself. So this lack of awareness growing up is what gets you in a lot of trouble in adulthood. So please do seek the help and therapy for it. Someone else said, my mother took away my rights and independence and forced me into marriage. So sometimes it's not because you grew up to be codependent that you had to settle for breadcrumbs. No, it was because you were forced into a situation or highly pressurized into a situation you didn't want to be in. And you ended up marrying someone who gave you the basic minimum. He wasn't generous, he wasn't a qawwam, he wasn't kind, he wasn't loving, and you were forced to deal with that situation. So this is interesting because a lot of people think that loads of people endure this behavior voluntarily, when actually there are loads of people who are still until today pressurized and forced into marriages they don't want. And then those people become very depressed because they are having to tolerate someone's abuse because they've got nowhere to go. Their families won't have them back, right? Their families are telling them that there's no way back after this. You've got to tolerate and be patient, and that's your husband or that's your wife, and you've got to deal with them. In front of Allah, you're going to be asked about this person. So just make it work. So lots of people are forced into these situations and having to accept the bare minimum and tolerate so much because their narcissistic parents have forced them to do so. Okay, especially the narcissistic mother. There's going to be a podcast coming up about her, inshallah. And these malignant mothers are the ones who just don't care what their daughters go through because there is supply for her in her daughter marrying this man. For example, he might be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, barrister. So it makes her look good that her daughter's married such a person, but she knows this person is abusive. She knows her daughter doesn't want to marry him. She knows he's 30, 40 years older than her and may even have an illness, whether that's mental or physical, might have a disability, but she doesn't care. She will use religious manipulation if she has to get her daughter to comply with her demands. For example, you're not going to go to heaven if you deny my wishes. I'm going to die and being displeased with you. Or she might raise her hands and pray against you until you fear what's going to happen to you with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're like, okay, fine, I'm just going to have to deal with this later, even though I don't want to. And their parents know this, so they rush them into marriage and they put so much pressure on them. Before they change their minds or before they report them to the authorities or to the local imam, because they have programmed their daughters to believe that if you get a divorce, you're going to shame us. So they want to rush a marriage as quickly as possible, trap her in it so that she can't get out of it because of the shame attached to divorce. And this is why so many people tolerate abuse and why they settle for the bare minimum, because they've got no other choice. Now, if you're in this situation, you can go to a judge and let him know that you're being forced or highly pressurized into marrying someone you don't want to marry, and the judge actually has the authority to stop it from happening. And if there is no judge, then you can get your local imam to act as a mediator between you and your parents. And this is important because forced marriages in Islam are invalid marriages, because women have the right to say no to marrying a man they don't want to marry. Okay, so her agreement to the marriage out of her own free will is necessary for the nikah to be valid. Another response was, I tolerated abuse to make things work for the sake of keeping a family together and because of how divorce is looked down on in our community. So, I've spoken about this before, but many people will tolerate abuse because of the children. Okay, they believe that keeping the children under one roof is more honourable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than a divorce, which is incorrect. But like I said before, because codependents have low self-esteem, they will use their children as an excuse to not exit the marriage because they can't stand up for themselves yet. And on top of that, having the fear of being shamed in the community for getting a divorce, especially if it's your second or third divorce, that is basically the cherry on the top that stops you from exiting an abusive relationship. So in your minds, you'd rather stay in this marriage than be shamed in public, because the culture is toxic, not because Islam encourages that. It's because the culture that is un-Islamic shames people into staying in toxic marriages that are soul destroying. Okay, they don't care about what it's doing to you. They care about how their community looks. And if people stay together, it makes their community look good, right? And the number of women who would be divorced would be low. So it would be seen as a serious act of bravery to exit a marriage. And the reason why they don't want it normalized is because they don't want people standing up for themselves and obtaining their rights. And this is in the benefit of narcissists. Okay, so it's the narcissists in the communities who shame people for being divorced, and it's a punishment for standing up for yourself. It's a punishment for you standing up for the rights that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. If you don't find second mawadda rahma in your marriage, you can get out of that relationship, but they don't want you to have that right, so they'll shame you into staying. Okay, this is toxic culture run by narcissistic people. And what did you gain from it? Right? What do people gain from staying in these relationships? They settle for breadcrumbs, below basic minimum sometimes, and they have to tolerate years of unnecessary abuse. For who and for what? It's for the benefit of the narcissists in our communities. People have to wake up to this. You are paying so much for the narcissist to keep benefiting from your sacrifices that you don't even have to make. Okay, Allah's not asked you to make those sacrifices. If you are being physically abused, mentally abused, spiritually abused, verbally abused, you can get out of that relationship. You don't have to tolerate any of this trash. Okay, that's not what Islam is about. That's not what Islam teaches us. This is what people who have MPD and a very twisted understanding of Islam as a result of their extremely low IQ are teaching people. And because people listen to them, God knows why, it's seriously beyond me how anyone can take the words of these people seriously. Because of this, so many people are living in misery, and so many Muslims are bitter and resentful, and they're jealous of other people who do get what they want and what they need. They are jealous of people who are treated better. You can't help it, right? You can't help but feel that way when you see how badly you're being treated, but other people get it so easily. Yeah? You've got to ask yourself, which side would I rather be on? And which side is going to help me be a better Muslim? Because if you're going to live your life in misery and resentment and envy and jealousy of others, then you're crippling your self-worth. You're destroying your iman. You're destroying your good deeds. Because you have a way out. Okay, you have a way out and you need to get the help for that way out. So don't be stingy with yourselves when it comes to getting the help you need, the therapy, the counselling. This is the best investment you can make in yourself. Okay, you will spend hundreds of pounds every month on absolute rubbish and you'll be okay with that. But when someone tells you that you need to pay X amount for therapy, you're like, no, that's too much. Love yourselves and get the therapy you need. because this is going to help you get to the other side. You don't want to be sitting on this side anymore. Living for narcissistic people and for their benefit and for their happiness and for them to have an easy life is costing you a lot. It's costing you a lot. And it's costing your children a lot. Okay, so just wanted to make that clear. And if you're in a forced situation, you can always get the authorities involved, get families involved, get the local imam involved, and make so much dua. Okay? Because Allah is the ultimate rescuer in these very difficult situations. So many people responded with low self-esteem. So they know that it was because they had low self-esteem and low self-worth that they accepted breadcrumbs and abuse. And someone else said it was because I was a widowed mother and I didn't want my children to be without a father. So unfortunately, in these cases as well, many widowed mothers and widowed fathers will marry anyone who accepts their children because they really worry about them not having a father figure in their lives or a mother figure. So a lot of narcissists prey on people who are single parents, and it's because they know that you might be struggling with parenting. And so if they agree to take on your children, I'm talking about narcissistic predators here, they will make it look like, I've done so much for you by taking on your children, don't ask me for anything else. Oh, don't expect anything else of me. I've already done you a favour, a big one. So many women in this situation will accept breadcrumbs and abuse because they are just happy that someone has accepted their children and didn't really think about him as a husband. Okay, so widowed mothers in particular will look for a father figure as the priority before looking at this man as a husband. So even if he's not attractive, it doesn't matter. Even if he's a low earner, it doesn't matter. They've got a father figure. They've got someone who will look out for them. And that's how a lot of women fall into a trap of abuse. Another response was because I was so desperate for a family. Now, women in their 30s plus are more likely to end up with a narcissistic man-child because of how much they want a family. So a woman in her 30s might fear not being able to have children because she's getting older. So she will accept a man-child who's not a provider, he's not a protector, he's not a leader, he's good looking, he's a nice guy. Or so she thinks, right? And she accepts all of that because she's working. And she's like, well, I'm so desperate to have a baby. I don't mind if I'm the provider in this relationship. I don't mind if I do this and this and this and this. Because this man is attracted to me. This man wants to marry me. And this is my best chance of having a family. So you settle for less than you deserve because of your own desperation for what you want. And more often than not, you will end up as a single mother anyway. Some women don't care because they've got their baby, right? They've got the baby they wanted. But some lose the family. And the loss of that family, after you realise the person you are dealing with is a narcissistic man-child who is cheating, who is a pathological liar, who is immature, he's all of those things that I've spoken about in that podcast about the man-child, can absolutely devastate you, right? Because it's all gone. And you worked so hard and took on his responsibilities to ensure that this marriage lasts forever. Because in your mind, you're thinking, well, if I can make his life easier, he'll stay. But it doesn't work that way with man-children. So you end up going through a depression because everything you did to try and keep this marriage together has blown with the wind. Because he was extremely ungrateful. He didn't like it. He felt emasculated by it. But he failed to see what you were trying to do. But he took advantage of it instead. Okay, so his ungratefulness is what caused the marriage to break apart. But also, because you were holding on so tightly to this man, you forgot yourself, right? You forgot your self-worth. So in the eyes of this man-child, he doesn't have to work for you to keep you. He doesn't have to do anything because you have taken on his responsibilities as well. He's like, well, she's desperate for me. She's not going anywhere. And that's when they deviate. That's when it starts falling apart. Because they just see you as someone who is now using them to have a family. Even though they benefit greatly from it. Okay? But they are emasculated by this. And you will always get breadcrumbs because in their minds you're not going anywhere. As soon as you made the decision to take on their responsibilities, they know you're putty in their hands. Okay, they might act all shy and sweet, but that shy and sweet man will turn into a malignant one over time. And you will get abused by that man. Okay, in all sorts of ways. And then you end up leaving because they reverse discard you. What did you gain? You didn't gain anything. So if you are in your 30s, 40s and 50s and you haven't met the right man, sit tight and enjoy the life you have. Be content with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you, because this is what you're going to end up doing. You're going to end up chasing your desires, and your desire is for a home and a family, but sometimes that's not written for you, or it's not written for you until you heal. And you might even use the excuse, well, I'm only asking for something from Allah that's a biological need. Right? I want to be a mother, I want to be a father, I want this, and I want a relationship and companionship. Why doesn't Allah give it to me? He's not giving it to you because you are in desperation mode. And when you're in desperation mode, you're in starvation mode. And when you're in starvation mode, you are going to accept a very low quality person for the sake of having a child, or for the sake of having a family, or for the sake of just being seen as married. Oh, she got married, there's nothing wrong with her. She's absolutely fine. He's not gay. He got married. Sometimes it's just for that. I can't count how many people I've seen marry people with hundreds of red flags because they got to a point of desperation. Desperation leads you down a very dangerous path. Okay, Allah wants you to get out of that desperation. He wants you to let go of this desire that you are severely attached to a point where it's completely crippling your self-worth now because you're settling for less. He wants you to let go of that to give you space to find the right man. Okay, it's never worth it. It's better being single all your life than marrying the wrong person. Okay, when you raise your self-worth, you don't care if you stay single all your life. I promise you, you won't care. Because if that man doesn't come into your life who is going to improve it and help you to get better as a person, it's not worth it. If that woman doesn't come along in your life who is going to make life so much more beautiful for you and make this world a happier place for you to live in, it's not worth it. You are better off staying single until you die than being with any other type of person, because it will end up in heartbreak. So if you're in desperation mode and you're not finding what you want, or you're holding on to man-children, chasing narcissistic people who enjoy watching you chase them, right? They're dangling that carrot. Oh, you want a baby, do you? Oh, you want marriage, do you? Oh, you're lonely, are you? Oh, they'll dangle those carrots and you'll chase. As soon as you chase, you've lost your value. You've lost it all. And that's when you start to settle for less. Subconsciously, you will know you've lost your value. And now that person becomes the prize because they have what you want. And when they have what you want, you're willing to give them everything for it. This is the danger of chasing your desires, because you put the power in someone else's hands and you're the one who's running after them. So they can do whatever they want with you. They can dictate how you feel about yourself. They have the power to influence how you see yourself. It's not worth it. Okay, you've got to get out of desperation mode. When you're starving, you'll eat anything. Okay, because you're in survival mode. Trust me, it's never worth it. You will lose people's respect when you chase them. And especially when they see you are out of their league. Okay, so man-children will often be chased by women who are out of their league. And I'm talking about the codependents here, not the empaths. The codependents who are out of their league will chase them because he's good looking, because he's this, because he's that. And all you see is an opportunity to have a family in this man. But boy, will he take you on a roller coaster ride from hell if you chase him. Because as soon as you chase him, I told you it's game over. Okay, it's game over. You've lost your value. And he will always be lazy with you, low effort, stingy. He'll give you breadcrumbs. He will not be the man you met when he love bombed you in the beginning, okay? That's what happens when you chase someone. You lose your value. You attract, you don't chase. And this goes for men too. There's a difference between pursuing someone and chasing someone. When you chase someone, it's because you are in desperate need of what they have. For example, look at wildlife programs. When you watch a documentary about lions when they hunt, they will chase a gazelle because they are desperate for food. They are hungry, they're starving. So they will chase any animal that can give them what they need, right? Because they're in survival mode. And perhaps you might chase someone who has robbed you. Okay, they've stolen your phone, stolen your bag. You will chase them because they've got something you desperately want back or you desperately need. So chasing someone is never a good look. Okay, it shows that person you are very desperate. But pursuing someone is different. So it's usually men who are in pursual mode. And pursual mode means that I'm going to learn what I need to do to obtain what I want. Okay, so I want to pursue this career. I want to pursue this lifestyle. I want to pursue this woman. What is it going to take for me to have that or have her? So that's the difference. You work for it. But when you chase, you just run. You just mindlessly run after what you want, even if it's not what you want. But you've seen the gazelle's head in the grass and you run for it. And then a rabbit's head pops up and you change your direction and you run for that because it's easier. That's what playboys do. That's what playgirls do. Right? They keep getting different options to chase, and that's why they're always going in different directions, because they want what's easier. They want the easier chase. So don't get the two mixed up. Pursual is healthy. It's admirable. Okay, it's an honourable way of expressing interest in someone. And chasing is for immature people, because they've got so much time on their hands to be chasing this person and that person and this person. You are wasting your energy because you find it fun or because you're in survival mode, right? So playboys and playgirls, they love chasing people. They find it a challenge to catch their prey because they're predatory. When you're in predatory mode, you're going to enjoy the chase for fun. And when you're in survival mode, you will be chasing out of desperation. Okay, know the difference. So people who chase others constantly and they enjoy it, avoid them like the plague. They're all playboys and playgirls, I'm telling you. They've got nothing better to do with their time but chase girls and chase boys. And this leads me on to another response that I received, which is, during my youth, I loved to chase bad boys. Right? I was attracted to the bad boys. And then when she got with the bad boy, she got breadcrumbed and abused. Okay, because when you get with a bad boy, what are you expecting? Right? What are you expecting from this guy? He's a bad guy. He's going to cheat. He's going to lie. He's going to steal. He's going to abuse and manipulate and gaslight and, oh my God. Yeah, he's going to do all of that. Women like the bad boys when they're codependent because, like I said, the empathic men are too soft. They give them the ick. The bad boy comes across as being masculine, tough. He's got that edge to him. Now, most women like a man with an edge. Okay, this is not just a codependent trait. This is something that empathic men have to work on. I'm going to do a separate podcast about this, inshallah, okay? Because it will help empathic men. So the majority of women, whether they're empaths, high-level empaths, codependent, narcissistic, they like a man with an edge. And what is that edge? The edge is the alpha masculinity in him that shows up when he's being protective, when he shows healthy jealousy, when he's providing. And you will feel safe in this guy's presence because he doesn't fear getting into a fight with anyone. So if anyone did come to fight him, he knows how to fight. He knows how to defend himself. He's not going to get scared, right? He's not going to get scared of insects and spiders and things like that. He's got that edge to him that's tough when he needs to be. A lot of empathic men don't have that, okay? They are soft all the way around. And this is something you can work on, but it's the reason why so many women reject the nice guy. Okay, they reject the man who is highly empathic because he doesn't have that edge. Okay, don't hate me for saying this. I'm being as honest as I can when it comes to these matters because they're important. And it's important for men to understand what women are attracted to. And vice versa, okay? Men want women to know what they're attracted to as well. Now, not all men are the same and not all women are the same. So some men might even like a woman with an edge. And some don't want a woman with an edge at all, right? A woman who's tough and she's strong and she's outspoken. Lots of men don't want that. But there are men who do. Because those men know that these women can keep them in line, can keep them in check. They need a strong woman. Now, if a man is very soft, he doesn't necessarily need that in his life. He wants a woman who is soft like him. And that's how, life can go on in harmony. But codependent women, their perception of a bad boy is primarily in the physical. And what I mean by that is that he looks like he goes to the gym, he's got a bodybuilder physique, he's got tattoos all over him, he's got a slit eyebrow, he's got a shaved head, he's got an earring or two in his ears, and possibly a few scars here and there, and broken knuckles from fighting. Loads of codependent women love this kind of guy, the bad boy, the guy who looks like this. And if he's an Akhi Abdullah, he will look like that too, but with a beard and a short thob, with his white socks pulled up. And, he might add a gold tooth in there or two, if you're lucky. That's what codependent women like. And that's only if they come from a family where men look like this. They've got brothers like this, uncles, a father. They're into the thug life. They're into looking masculine. Okay, so these might be man children. They have no idea how to be a man, but it's helping them to look masculine. They are attracting codependent women who are in awe of this external masculinity, because this is what codependent women have been raised to believe masculinity is. So they want the tough guy. They want the bad boy. They're attracted to him. Now, other women will be attracted to the more professional types, right? The more professional, polished-looking guys who don't have gold teeth and tattoos and all of that. But they will be narcissistic in a different way. So they will still be tough. They will still look after themselves physically, but they won't be street boys. Okay, there's just a different type of narc. But both types are very possessive, very strict, very overbearing and suffocating. They both have the same traits, but their narcissism is different because of their lifestyle. So when you are attracted to these people and you marry these people, you're going to get breadcrumbed for sure. And you will go through all sorts of abuse. Okay, picture it as you going to Alton Towers and you get on all those horrific rides, that make you sick, that make you dizzy, that make you hate your life, that make you say your shahada, that make you wish you were never born and you never stepped foot in Alton Towers because of how terrifying those rides are and how dangerous. And all those rides that make you lose your money because you've dropped your purse and dropped your shoes, or you've lost your hijab or your wig has fallen off. This relationship is going to do that to you. You're going to lose a lot more than that dealing with a narcissist, okay? You'll lose your sanity and your iman and everything else, because losing your shoes will be the least of your problems. You'll get off that ride the same way you get out of a narcissistic relationship, and you'll look at it and you'll say, never again. Come hell or high water, will I ever get on that ride again? Even if you paid me £1 million to get on that ride, it is not worth the vertigo and the whiplash you get by tolerating another 2 minutes of it. Because imagine this, right? Think of the scariest ride you've ever been on at a fun fair. And let's say the controls are broken, so it keeps the ride on loop. So it doesn't stop. It keeps repeating the cycle, and the controller can't stop it because there's a problem. Imagine being on that ride for 10 rounds, non-stop. Because I promise you, that's what your soul feels when you keep entering a trauma bond with a narcissist. Okay? Your soul feels like that. That's why it's always so troubled. That's why it always feels sick. It's so unwell. Because it's being forced into this cycle on a ride it doesn't want to be on. But when you've normalized it, you will unfortunately continue on that ride without realizing how much you are damaging your soul by being on it. Okay, it's the best way I can explain it to you. That's what happens to your soul. That's why you're so miserable and so depressed. Because it's so numb now to the trauma bond. It's just sat there like Mr. Bean on the roller coaster, completely unfazed by the speed and the wind and everything that makes a ride scary. If you watch Mr. Bean, you'll know what I mean. You become like that. And that's why you see so many men and women, they're like zombies in their relationships. You know, they get physically abused, verbally abused. They're so dead to the world that they don't care anymore. Like, they will tolerate it. They will accept breadcrumbs. And sometimes nothing. They don't get anything. And it's like talking to a brick wall because they've become so numb to it after 15, 20, 25 years that it's like, this is life now. This is life. I have accepted that I have no worth and no value, and this is how I'm going to be treated to the end of my life. It's really sad. It's really heartbreaking to see people in that state. That's why I tell you, get therapy so you can get out of it. You don't want to reach that state of numbness. Don't get to that state, because this isn't what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for his believers. Okay, that's not what he wants. It's what you have decided to stay in, because it's easier to now deal with this than to get therapy and face all your traumas. The longer you leave it, the harder it is. Okay, by the time you reach your 50s and 60s, trust me, you will not be going to therapy easily, because there's too much to address. And this is why parents in their 60s and 70s, they'd rather die than go to therapy now. Especially if they were narcissistic parents, they wouldn't go and face 60, 70 years of trauma. Hell no, they're not going to do that, because there's way too much to address and visit, things that they don't want to revisit, things they don't want to remember. So the longer you leave it, the harder it gets. I've got clients who are 17 and 18, and I absolutely love it that they are addressing all their traumas at that age, because it will mean that they can live a healthy adult life without dragging all their traumas into it. So they're dealing with them now so that they can live a better life, because they've seen how damaged their parents are, and other people, right, they come across, they're like, well, no, I don't want to be that person when I'm older. Let me address all my issues from now. And that's the best thing about this generation. There is more awareness of personality disorders and childhood traumas and all of that. So yeah, do get the help whenever you can and as soon as you can to save yourself, inshallah. So the next response I received from a sister, and it's linked to the previous response about bad boys. She said, I fought my family to marry someone and felt stupid that they were right. When women get themselves in this situation, and men too, more often than not, they tolerate life with the wrong person because they feel foolish for fighting so hard for them when their entire family told them there is something not right with this person. That person's a narcissist. That person is creepy. That person is not who they say they are. Can you not see it? Can you not see the red flags? Can you not see the signs? And you're like, nope, I want to marry this person, I love this person, they're the best person for me, and then you turn against your own family. You don't want what's best for me, you don't want me to get married, you will hate me, you will this, you will that. And they're like, fine, if that's what you want, learn the lesson. They let you marry him, you get married to him, he turns out to be exactly what your family told you he was. And you're going through so much abuse. And now you feel stupid. Now you feel embarrassed. You're like, well, how can I complain about him to them when they've been warning me for ages? They told me he was like this, but I didn't listen because I didn't trust what they had to say. So I'm just going to stick with it because I don't want to embarrass myself in front of everyone. I don't want to look like a fool. I'm going to pretend that I'm happy. So you accept breadcrumbs and you tolerate abuse because the person you're with knows exactly why you're doing it. They know that you've realised that you've been scammed and that your family was right and that you want to keep up appearances. And they take advantage of that. They take advantage of you not wanting to be divorced and you not wanting to prove your family right. So you tolerate in silence until one day you explode. Okay? That's a main reason why lots of women stay silent about the abuse that they're going through because of all the drama that was created before marriage about this person. So I always encourage women to listen to the opinions of their male relatives about another man, even if your male relatives are narcissists. Okay, because they know men very well, the same way women know each other very well. So men need to also take on board the opinions women have of other women, because there are many things that you don't pick up in women that we can, and there are many things that men can pick up in other men that we can't. So it's always important to take on board what they say very seriously, especially if more than one person has said the same thing. Okay, start to evaluate and look into that. Now the next response is, because I felt very ugly growing up, so I accepted the first man who proposed and he turned out to be abusive. So this one's really sad because a lot of girls grow up not being validated by their family members, especially their parents, for being beautiful, especially if they were compared to siblings who were better looking, and especially if they were compared by friends to others in school. So, for example, they might have been picked on for having curly hair or being a different skin colour or being a bit overweight or having a gap in their teeth or whatever, right? Kids are so cruel to each other in school and they will always make fun of other girls who they're actually jealous of. So they actually admire her skin colour and her lovely curly hair and this and that. But the girl who's being bullied and teased at school is taking it personally, and now she feels very ugly. And she grows up believing she's ugly. She might be so beautiful, but she grows up feeling very ugly. And a lot of boys go through this as well. They're teased for being skinny, for being short, and for having freckles and ginger hair. Yeah, all of these are things that children are constantly teased about. And so children grow up with very low self-esteem. So when they're compared to others, or they're not as beautiful as their siblings, or they're never validated for their beauty, no one's ever told them or rarely tells them that they're beautiful, they will grow up feeling very unattractive, even if they are. And so women will jump into the opportunity of marriage with the first person who comes along because they don't believe anyone else is going to be interested in them. And sometimes that person will be very abusive. And if a narcissistic man picks up on her insecurities, that she doesn't feel attractive, that she feels ugly and all of that, he will capitalize on that. He will destroy her self-esteem even more, and he will make her jealous by looking at other women, talking to other women, admiring other women, complimenting other women. That's what happens. When someone picks up on your insecurities in that way, they will capitalize on them and completely exploit them. So yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people grow up feeling very unattractive, and that's why they get so happy when they find someone who is attractive and they're interested in them. And this is why a lot of empathic women accept the narcissistic man-child. The narcissistic man-child is usually quite good looking, so when he's interested in you, you think you're ugly, but he sees you as attractive. So you're now thinking, I'm super lucky, I've got a trophy, I've got this gorgeous man who wants to be with me. He wants to marry me. Oh my God, so you turn a blind eye to everything else. Everything he lacks in, everything he is not doing that he's meant to be doing, you turn a blind eye to all of that because this good-looking man wants to marry ugly me, right? You're not seeing yourself as beautiful. He sees you as super attractive. But because you've got no confidence, because no one's really validated you in that sense, you don't see it. And if you have female friends who are jealous of you, they won't tell you either. They won't tell you that you're attractive. They will keep picking on things that you need to change about yourself. So it enforces your belief that you are indeed unattractive. They might suggest that you do treatments for your nose and your lips and your jaw and your teeth. And then you end up changing so much about yourself to make yourself feel better and attractive in the eyes of other people when you were attractive to begin with. But jealous, narcissistic friends, there's a podcast coming about them, they will capitalize on your insecurities as well. Okay, because they want to be put on a pedestal as the pretty friends that you look up to. So you're constantly complimenting them. You constantly want to be like them. Yeah? So this is what happens with many people who grow up to feel unattractive, and many men will do the same. Like they grow up, they don't feel handsome. They don't feel that they meet the standards of male beauty in the world. They're not 6 foot tall. They're not muscly, they're not athletic, they're not this, they're not that. So when a beautiful woman comes their way and she notices that he's codependent or empathic, she's narcissistic, and she wants to be with him and she shows interest in him, oh, he's on cloud 9. He can't believe a woman who looks that good is interested in him. She's a trophy right there. And he will do everything to please her. He'll do everything to have her. And he will let her get away with so many things that an empath couldn't get away with, right? These women get away with not cooking, not cleaning, not knowing how to do anything because they can't believe that this good-looking woman is interested in them. Unfortunately, it's the empathic woman who gets bullied. If you don't cook, I'm not interested. If you don't clean, I'm not interested. But funnily enough, the narc woman who's very good-looking gets away with all of it. And she's not required to have any of those skills. She's not required to do anything. He will even make excuses for her. He'll say, oh, we've got Uber Eats. I can get a cleaner in. I can do this and I can do that for you. You sit down. I'll take care of it. Right? Because he is so fixated on her beauty because he doesn't believe he has it. So he'll put her on a pedestal and it will be a sign of achievement. I have achieved this. I have managed to get myself a 10 out of 10. I don't care if you don't cook. I don't care if you don't know how to boil an egg or make a cup of tea. I'll do it. No problem. I'll do it. But I want to keep you because you now make me feel better. I now feel more attractive by having you. So, unfortunately, this is what happens, and then men lose out. Over time, they see the ugly character of this woman come out. Her beauty fades away, and he is craving the nurturing nature of the empath, the kindness, the care, the love, right? He's now craving all of that, which she can't give him because he didn't care about any of that because of his low self-esteem. And this drove him to pick the best looking woman who would have him. And when it comes to women, you know, she will take on all of his duties and responsibilities because she can't believe that such a good looking man wants to be with her. Only because she sees herself as unattractive, when the reality is that she is attractive. Okay, and that's what he saw in her. That's why he's with her. The man-child won't get with a woman who's unattractive, by the way. The man-child is very driven by materialism, and materialism includes physical beauty. He's not going to get with a woman he can't brag about. He wants a trophy woman as well. So this low self-esteem, I'm telling you, will get you into all sorts of trouble. You'll attract all sorts of narcissists who look good, right? And Iblis's favourite manipulation tactic is to reel people in with beauty. So he will allow people with low self-esteem to see demonic people as being very beautiful. He gives them a very beautiful cover, right? It's a lens he gives you because you are not working on yourself. Okay, you're not getting the help that you need. Do listen to podcast 56 when you have time. It's called God Tells Us Why Many People Will Be Attracted to Narcissists. Okay, so if you haven't listened to that one yet, do check it out for a more detailed insight into this subject. Okay, it's fascinating and Allah explains why. Lots of people will see demonic people as being very, very beautiful. So other responses I received were wanting to be loved desperately. And another person said, receiving no attention or words of love and encouragement growing up. So the minimal effort was tolerated in adulthood because they got no attention when they were children and teenagers. So this is what I said before. If you don't get any attention or very little love and care when you're young, any attention you get in adulthood and sweet words and compliments, they're going to be seen as huge in your eyes, and you'll become very clingy with that person. You'll always want to be around that person. You will tolerate many things for the sake of being with that person because for the first time in your life you're being validated and you're being shown what you believe is love. Okay? But you have no idea that what they're giving you is basic minimum and sometimes below basic minimum. You have no idea. But to you, that's something big because you never had it before. So the breadcrumbs you receive are seen as huge acts of love. So you give so much in return. So the narcissist loves this, right? They're like, wow, all I have to do is throw her some breadcrumbs and I get so much in return. But you give genuine love because you're grateful for this validation and feeling good. So you give them so much and they see that you're making so much effort for them, but they're giving breadcrumbs to you because you don't understand yet that what you are receiving is basic minimum because you don't have high standards as a result of having low self-esteem. Okay, so breadcrumbs will be seen as grand gestures of love, and this can be very painful when you realize later that they weren't. Someone else said, I believe their victim story. So a narcissist will give you a victim story about their childhood and their bad situation and their exes and what they did to them. All of that, right? They will play victim in everything. So you feel sorry for them and you will tolerate what they put you through because they keep saying to you, I hope you don't leave me the same way other people have left me. I hope you don't betray me like my exes did. I hope you don't abuse me like my mother did. You are everything to me. You are my world. You are my love. You are this. You are that. So you actually stay out of guilt and you accept the breadcrumbs and tolerate abuse. Okay, because you're now feeling guilty for this person. You want to leave, but you can't because they have played the victim role so well that you now feel bad and you don't ever want him or her to go through any more distress because of you, right? You don't want to add to that. So you try to fix them and help them and tolerate them so that you never become a cause of them being another victim. So they play it very well. Trust me, they know how to play this game. It is their game. So you feel terrible every time you even think of leaving. You remember everything they told you about their past and you find an excuse to stay. And that's how you get treated in such a terrible way and you do not get what you deserve. You don't get any of your needs met because this entire relationship has now become about them. So you put their needs first and you worry about what will happen to them if you were to leave after all their sob stories. Okay, so they always come first, they are always prioritized, and your needs and wants always take a back seat. And this narcissist never makes it a thing to address your wants and needs and meet them because they don't care. They really don't care. You are in this relationship to serve them and worship them and be everything they need. right? So why would they look at your needs and look at your wants and see what they can do about them when you've already shown them that this relationship is all about them, because you don't care about yourself. You're not holding yourself to any standard, and you're not holding them to a standard. Okay, so that's how these relationships get dragged on for far longer than necessary. Someone else said it was because they were already in too deep. So this is another problem when you get emotionally involved with someone very early on. So you will have standards for yourself, but because you've fallen in love with them and they've given you a love that you've never experienced because of the heavy love bombing that they put you through, that you enjoy, you're now emotionally attached to them. And now they start making excuses for things that you wanted but they can't give you. For example, you ask for a specific dowry, they want you to lower it, and you're like, okay, because you now love them. They tell you, I can't get you this house, or I can't do this wedding, or I can't get you this and I can't get you that, and you're okay with it because you're like, as long as I have you, I don't care about anything else. All I care about in the world is being married to you. Thanks, Alicia Keys, for teaching us that everything means nothing if you don't have that man in your life. Yeah, thanks for that. It really helped. And thanks, Whitney Houston, for teaching us that we have nothing if we don't have that man that we want in our life. And so we will be easily taken advantage of if we have no value for anything in our life apart from that person who has love bombed the hell out of us. Okay? Is love bombed the brains out of us. We have no more brains to think for ourselves and look at the red flags and analyze them and ask ourselves, is this something I want to get into? Am I getting my needs and wants met? No, I'm not, because he keeps lowering them and challenging them and finding ways to justify why he doesn't want to do them. You're not looking at that side of things. You're looking at whatever it's going to take to have this man, I'm going to accept it. I'm going to lower all my standards for him. In the meantime, he's looking at you as someone desperate. Right? He's like, I'm not special. She's out of my league. She's the one who has more value than I do in this relationship. She brings more to the table than I do, but yet she's willing to lower all her standards. She must not love herself. Wonderful victim. Right? They love people who don't love themselves and don't stick to their principles and values and don't hold themselves to high esteem. Yeah, you're fried chicken, I'm telling you. As soon as a man realizes or a woman realizes that you have no self-love and no sense of worth, especially when they are using Islam to manipulate you, they'll realize that you're not educated in Islamic matters. So you're a perfect victim. And that's when they continue using Islam to gaslight you and abuse you and so on and so forth. They test everything in the beginning. They'll test your Islamic knowledge. They'll test you for boundaries. They want to see how far they can push your boundaries to lower your standards. They will see what you're willing to tolerate from the very beginning. These are the red flags that you miss. They'll throw out things to test you. And if you fail those tests, you're fried chicken in a burger bun. Okay? That's what you're going to be to them. So another response I got was there was no proper communication. So sometimes the issue is just that you haven't communicated what you want and what you need so that you get more than breadcrumbs. Okay? So sometimes misunderstandings can turn into abuse, and sometimes a lack of communication can cause you to accept breadcrumbs because you haven't told someone clearly what you want and what you need. This only works when you're not in a abusive relationship with a narcissist, okay? Because a narcissist doesn't care about what you want and need. And if you're a codependent, you're going to really struggle with communicating that anyway, right? You're going to feel very uncomfortable asking for what you want and need, like I said before. But sometimes these situations can be fixed by good communication. And someone else said they tolerated abuse and breadcrumbs because they had a past, and they also felt used, abused, and damaged by previous people. So when they found someone who gave the bare minimum, they thought that is how they were meant to be treated. And they always reminded me that they did me a favor by marrying a divorcee with a past. So as I mentioned before about the widowed mother and the single mother or the single father, a lot of people will look at marriage to you as a favor. Only narcissists will do that, okay? But they will convey this early on, even before you marry them. They will start telling you things like, oh, I don't know if I can take on children. I don't know about this. This is going to be hard. It's tough raising another man's children. And this could be difficult on me financially. That means I have to split my time with you. That means this and that means that. So basically, they're getting you geared up to believe that if they accept you, they are doing you a huge favor because they've listed all the negative aspects to it. An empath will never do that to you. Okay, you'll never have that conversation with an empath. They'll either accept it or they won't. But a narcissist will make a big deal out of accepting someone with children because they want you to look at it like they've done you a huge favor. So even if you tell them about your past, they'll go on and on and on about it and then accept you. Okay, it's planned. They know someone with a past could be someone who's not healed, someone who could be a great victim. So don't tell them too much about yourself in the beginning because they are noting all of this down. They'll make a big deal about it and then accept you so that you are programmed to believe that they are a great person who's done you a huge favor. Okay? Never let anyone belittle you because of your past, and you don't have to disclose it to anyone. Don't tell people from the get-go what you've been through until you reach a safe space with them. If you want to share something, then do. But don't spill everything in the first meeting because you'll either scare someone off or you will show yourself up as a prime victim for a narcissist. Okay, there are loads of predators out there who want people with a past because they want to use it against you later. If you have nothing for them to use against you, it's boring for them. They need ammunition. Ah, great, he had a past or she had a past. I can use that later. I can belittle her later and degrade her and shame her whenever I feel like doing that because I have all this information about her that she willingly, stupidly gave to me. Okay, that's how they think. So stop doing this. Okay, don't reveal your secrets to people you don't even know yet. If at all. You don't even need to do that at all. Okay? If you've repented, if you're a good person, what they don't know is better for them. If they know it, you put an empathic person in a dilemma because now they won't accept you. Especially if they've been chased, if you've had one of those pasts and they're chased, they're not going to want to be with you because they know it now. So what they don't know doesn't hurt. Okay? It's not like you're deceiving them. Khalas, that was your past and you've repented and you want to start a new chapter in your life. No problem for an empath. But when you tell an empath everything, you're going to get upset when they don't pursue you anymore. And you're going to get upset when a narcissist uses it against you. So be smart with it. Be smart, because this happens a lot. Okay, people end up accepting breadcrumbs, lowering their standards, and accepting abuse because they are being blackmailed about their past or being degraded and shamed because of it. All right, even if they were divorced, whatever it is that the narcissist is using against them, the shame of what they're doing to you will cause you to stay in a toxic relationship. Another response was fear of abandonment. Okay, so some people are so scared of being abandoned that they will stay and accept breadcrumbs because they'd rather be with that person than be alone. They'd rather be with that person than struggle to get married again. And they'd rather be with that person than be rejected and be taken back to their childhood trauma when they were abandoned by a father or a mother. Okay, they don't want to go through that feeling and that pain again. So they will stay and accept breadcrumbs and lower their standard to stay married or to stay in that friendship group or to stay in that job that they hate. Okay? Another response is, I think it was because my father was never active in my personal life. So absent fathers definitely have a huge hand to play in the low self-esteem of their children. Okay, men and women. Women more. Because when you don't have the guidance and the wisdom and the care and the love of a father, you won't know which men are healthy, which men are good, which men are not, because you don't have any help, right? So you will end up with different types of men in your life that you have a relationship with who treat you so badly, but you have no idea what's normal anymore because your own father abandoned you, your own father took off, he didn't teach you anything. So you end up with a man who gives you breadcrumbs, who doesn't treat you well. You don't know how to be a wife to him. He doesn't know how to be a husband to you because you didn't receive that guidance. There was no role model. And men suffer from this too. So if they had an absent father, they don't know how to treat women properly. They think it's okay to just get up and run off when times get hard and abandon their responsibility. Absent fathers really damage their children, and it causes many people to accept abuse and terrible circumstances because they don't have a father to support them, be there for them, fight for them, stand up for them, and teach them that they are people of value. So yes, if you don't have a role model of what a healthy man looks like, and you don't have a healthy role model as a man, then yeah, you're going to end up in very difficult and troubled relationships with other people. Someone else said that they didn't want to be ungrateful for the little things that they did do. So again, this comes from an Islamic understanding of how someone should be. You should be grateful for everything small and everything big. But a narcissist has a very clever way of manipulating you into believing that the small things are the big things and that all you're going to get are the small things. So be grateful and maybe one day you'll get some big things, right? They're future faking. They give you this false hope. One day I'll take you on this holiday. One day I'll buy you that jewelry set. One day I'll get you that car. One day I'll do this for you and do that for you. So you get used to being grateful for the small things and you hang around and wait for the big things. That's what they do. That's their manipulation. And those big things never come. Okay, and if they do, it's when you leave. That's how they hoover you back in, right? They save those big things for an emergency because they know that if they show you something big that you want when you leave or when you're about to leave, then it will give you hope that, oh, I can get the big things from this person, then I'm coming back in. I'm happy to be hoovered up by this Dyson, right? Because things are looking promising now, and then you just get disappointed and you're back to square one and you've been scammed and you enter the trauma bond again, and it just continues that way. So someone said that they were exposed to only minimum effort from their father, so they didn't know what better treatment looked like. So that's why you will accept this from a husband, because if you didn't get it from your father, then you feel like I can't really expect it from a husband then, you know? So yeah, it's a serious problem. And like I said, men go through this too. So if they didn't get special treatment from their mothers, then they will think twice before asking for it from a wife. They're like, well, if my mother didn't give it to me, then how can I expect this woman to give it to me? So they don't ask. And these emotions remain suppressed for a very, very long time. And it just makes them feel like they're not special. So when someone gives you breadcrumbs, it just reinforces the belief that you're nothing special. You're no one worthy. You're no one to go out of their way for. So if your parents can't do that for you, again, it's not something that you're going to expect from other people. That's how you're programmed. And even when you do ask for what you want, it comes across as you complaining. So they tell you to stop moaning about things that you haven't got. They're telling you that this is normal. You know, you should be lucky. Other women don't get this in their marriage. Other men don't get this in their marriages. What are you moaning about? You're asking for too much. As soon as you start feeling that you're asking for too much, you feel guilty and you withdraw. Okay, again, it's a manipulation tactic. And you may be asking for very normal, basic things that they can do. But because they don't want to do them for you, they make it look like you're asking for too much and you're being ungrateful. So you feel guilty. You're like, oh, maybe I am asking for too much. Maybe this and maybe that. So you stop. And they're happy. Like, wow, it worked. Great. We're going to continue doing that. right? It's like when you ask your husband for a necklace. You're out and you see one in the window and you say to him, I would love that necklace. Can you get it for me? And he turns around to look at you and he says, what have you done to deserve this necklace? Haven't I given you enough? I put a roof over your head. I give you food to eat. I give you drink. I give you this. I give you that. And you want a necklace? What have you done to deserve a necklace? They always shut you down that way. So you stop asking because it makes you feel awful about yourself. Okay, you get really upset and you start thinking, maybe I am asking for too much. But then you start questioning your self-worth. You're like, well, if I don't deserve a necklace, then what do I deserve? Basic minimum, halas, that's it then. Basic minimum, I'm not going to ask him again because I don't want to feel that way again. I don't want to be told that I'm ungrateful. I don't want to be told this and that. So he will do it to see what your response is like. And if you accept it, halas, he will use it on you every time. These people want you to work for it, okay? They want you to deserve the basic things that you want. A real man will be so happy to buy you what you want, okay? If he can afford it, he'll buy it. If he can't afford it, he'll keep it in his mind and he'll buy it for you later. That's what a real man does who loves you. A man who doesn't love you, a narcissist, someone with a personality disorder, will get out of everything that you want from them. Unless it's in the love bombing stage, and even then they can be stingy, but they're on a mission to entrap you, so they are happy to invest a bit until they get their prey. And then they go back to being how they normally are. So if you're not used to having a father who buys you gifts and spoils you with things and buys you things that you like in shops, if you're not used to that, you're going to accept this from a man or a woman as well. You're going to accept this treatment. Okay? So it's based on what you're used to. Now, maybe later on in life you'll meet some friends who know how to ask for what they want and they'll teach you. That's great. But a lot of codependent women don't have that. They tend to befriend other codependent women. So they're all in the same boat together. They can't teach each other anything new. So you will gravitate towards what you're used to, unfortunately. Okay, when you have a father who spoiled you and bought you things and bought you what you needed, you were never without anything that you needed, then you're going to pick up on that toxic trait and those red flags in men very quickly. So if he's not meeting your wants and needs early on, you're like, well, my father does. I'm not going to settle for someone who doesn't do that for me. My father has raised me to believe that I'm valuable and that I shouldn't be deprived of what I need and what I want if a man can afford it. My father always bought me what I wanted when he could afford it, right? So when you come across a man who doesn't want to do that for you, you'll pick up on that red flag quick because you've got someone to compare him to. And a lot of men hate that, right? That's why a lot of men prefer that you have a toxic or absent father, because then you'll have no one to compare him to. And a lot of toxic women will prefer that a man has an absent mother or a toxic mother so that the basic minimum she gives him will be good enough. He'll be like, at least she's not like my mum, right? She's better than my mum. So she will want to hear everything about your toxic mum to see how much of the bare minimum she can get away with when it comes to you. All right? Just some food for thought. That's what they do. And that's how they test you and your boundaries and your standards in the beginning. So if a narcissist sees that you have very high standards for yourself, they're not going to pursue you. They'll ghost you. They will realize you are not someone they can manipulate and take advantage of. They'll ghost you. And loads of people say, oh, I was talking to someone for about 3 weeks and then all of a sudden he ghosted me or she ghosted me or she blocked me for no reason whatsoever. No, it wasn't for no reason. It's because they realize I'm wasting my time with this person. They're not a victim. They're not someone I can take advantage of. I'm going to invest my time in someone else who is. Okay, so when people ghost you, it's usually because you are not the victim they hoped you would be. And you come from a background that doesn't allow you to settle for someone like him and the lifestyle he is offering or the treatment that she is offering you. Apply this to both men and women, okay? So another major problem that many people have growing up is that they believe that what they're doing is Islamically correct. I know I've touched upon this before, but empathy is misunderstood. Okay, so empathy is seen as the tolerance of someone's mistakes, flaws constantly, and that you have to give someone 70 excuses, and that a good wife, like I said, tolerates her husband, and a good husband tolerates his wife. Even if they're abusive, you stay together. This is so incorrect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not tell us to do that. The Prophet ﷺ did not tell us to do that. So a lot of people grew up misunderstanding what love is, which is why I created the podcast for you to understand how that happened. And they grew up misunderstanding what empathy means in Islam and what patience means in Islam. Okay, so we're not requested to be patient with abuse, especially when we can get out of that situation. Allah's given us a way out. We're not supposed to bear it. Okay, we're not supposed to tolerate it and accept it for His sake. No. Allah says if it's not working out, you can get a divorce. It's not the end of the world, you can get a divorce. Because if it's abusive, then there's no point staying. Get a divorce. Allah gave us divorce for that reason. Okay? Because He doesn't want us to tolerate bad treatment and disrespect and being degraded and shamed and all of this. He doesn't want us to tolerate that. So He gave us a way out if we are going through that. Okay? People have got it all wrong. Like I said, it's toxic culture that has been run by narcissistic people that has trapped us in toxic marriages. Okay, so the understanding of empathy in Islam is not to tolerate abuse. It's to love yourself, because when you love yourself, you can love others. Okay, and when you love yourself, you can have a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you hate yourself, you're not going to have any of that, and you have no ability to be a good person to others. Okay, so self-love is really important in Islam. That's where the core foundation of empathy is found. Because if you don't have it, you can't give it. That's why narcissists can't love and they can't nurture people, because they don't have it to give. Okay, so we have to cultivate it and grow it in ourselves first before we can even think of having a relationship with other people and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so the understanding of empathy has been distorted as a result of narcissistic agendas. Someone else said that they tolerated breadcrumbs because of loneliness. So they have no one in the world. Okay, they don't have a family, they don't have friends, they don't have neighbours that they can talk to and connect with. So they put all their hopes on this one person who has entered their life and shown them attention, because they are that person's lifeline. Okay, so they'll accept whatever from that person because they are the only person in their life, and they're going to make that person their entire world. And this causes the breakdown of the relationship as well. So, it could be a friend, it could be a husband or wife. But if you do this with a narcissistic person, they're going to take full advantage of this. And you will literally accept anything from them as long as they don't go away. As long as they don't leave you alone, you'll be fine with whatever it is they give you or put you through. You don't care. You just have to have them. Okay, this is super dangerous. Another response was someone who kept getting told when they were younger that they were useless, hopeless, they would never be successful, they will never be loved by anyone, and they will never have Allah's love and approval, and so on. So these horrible, painful words can come from your own malignant parents, or from your siblings, or from friends at school, and they stick with you for life. Okay, you hold on to them, you believe them, and you let those words become who you are. So sometimes people who heard these painful words, they get haunted by them all the time. Every time they want to work for something they want or get something that they want, they are always reminded and haunted by those words. You're useless, you'll never get that, you don't deserve that, you shouldn't have that. You're not special, you're a nobody. You're worthless, you're ugly, you'll never attract this, you'll never have this, you'll never have money, you'll always be poor. these words haunt them. Every time they want to go for something, they remember these words and it sets them back. So they go back to a mediocre life where they accept breadcrumbs from people and they tolerate abuse from people because they believe those words. And it can take a while in therapy to unprogram yourself from those words. You know, a lot of people heard them from their own parents, unfortunately. And those are the childhood traumas they carry into their adulthood. Okay, these words hinder their progress. They're not true, but you've held on to them and you've taken them on as an internal belief. Okay, so this is a major reason why many people accept abuse. And also, if this person who was abused this way got into a relationship and was cheated on, they might go back to that person again and again and again because they believe it's their fault. They believe it's because of them. They believe all those words that they heard since childhood are the reasons why this person cheated on them. So they always forgive the cheater. You know how sometimes you see people take their partners back after they've clearly disrespected them and cheated on them? Yeah, that's the reason why. Because they have no self-esteem, no self-worth, and in their minds they're thinking, well, it must have been my fault. They justify it. They justify staying because of all those words that haunt them all the time. Another response is fear of rejection. So when you've waited a very long time to get married, or you've waited a very long time to find a good friend, you hold on to that friend by doing everything that they want and need from you so that you don't get rejected. Okay, so if you come across someone and they say, I'm interested in you, I want to be friends with you, I want to marry you, but these are my conditions for you to be in my life, those conditions might not be suitable for you, but you will change your entire life and all your values and all your principles to cater to that person because you've waited so long to get married, or you've waited so long to have a close friend. Okay, so your fear of rejection will cause you to change who you are as a person so that you can fit into their life that is very different from yours. Even if it makes you uncomfortable, you're going to do it because you see it as an opportunity to get what you want. And what will happen here is that they will see that you're doing that because when they met you, you were a different person. And now they see that you are adjusting to their life, which means they are the ones who are important in this relationship, and they start to disrespect you because you're not standing with your own principles and values and way of life and everything. Okay, even your beliefs might change for this person. So they'll start to lose respect, and you're not understanding why they're starting to treat you badly. But narcissistic people will always disrespect those who change their lives to be with them because they know they're demonic. They know that they're not good people. So when they see a good person change their ways and lifestyle and values and principles to suit their demonic ones, you're no longer special in their eyes. They now think you're silly. They now think you are incredibly naive and they'll have no respect for you. And I know it sounds hard, but this is the truth. This is how they think. They just think, well, this person has a good life already. Why are they coming to the dark side? You know, why are they accepting my disrespect and abuse and my cheating and my, offensive remarks? For what? They had a good life before. Just because they're lonely, they want to be with me. And I know I'm demonic and I know I'm not a good person. And they can clearly see that. I can't be dealing with this person. So they'll treat you with disrespect. That's why. But you're giving them everything. And the more you give them, the more they resent you. The more they think, what is wrong with this person? They're a good person and they are serving me, a demon. Why? They don't understand you and you don't understand them. And then this relationship ends up becoming very toxic. They start creating problems because they want to reverse discard you, or they discard you brutally and ghost you and disappear. And then you're left thinking, what happened to my friend? What happened to my wife? What happened to my husband? All of a sudden, they just changed. It must be black magic, right? Now you're starting to think, oh, someone's done black magic. It must have been his crazy auntie. It must have been his creepy brother. It must have been this. It must have been that. Or someone gave us very strong evil eye. They were jealous of our friendship, jealous of our marriage. And now, they've started acting a bit strangely. They're not acting strangely. This is what happened. This is exactly what happened. Okay? When you step over to the dark side in the swamp, in the narc swamp, this is what's going to happen. They're not going to respect you for going there at all. They have to work hard to come to the good side. They're the ones who should be making the effort to be in your life. So when they see you chasing them and they know they're demonic and you're a decent person, they'll never respect you for it. They just think that you're naive. They think you're silly and stupid, right? So be careful. Be careful when you see red flags in someone. When you see someone is not nice, not a good person, stay away from them. You're going to be stepping into their side of the world and you'll get all sorts of problems. Don't fear losing these people. You need to lose these people for your life to improve and for you to go back to who you once were. You will change being around a narcissistic individual. You will change. Another response was, because I gave him the benefit of the doubt when he's stressed from work, finances, and tired from working. So when you're married to someone and he's stressed out, he's having financial issues, maybe he's lost his job, in these circumstances, I always tell people, be patient with this, especially when the man is a good man. Because people go through ups and downs, right? And loyalty is required here. So this is when a man will need his wife's support the most. He doesn't want her nagging and complaining and reminding him every 5 minutes that he's not getting her what she wants. However, it doesn't give him an excuse to abuse her, okay? So she may forego some of the things that she's used to getting from a financial perspective, for example. However, she shouldn't be tolerating any abuse coming from him as a result of him being stressed at work or losing his job or whatever else is going on in his life. He needs to deal with that. But his good treatment of her has to continue, okay? He might be more irritated, he might be more angry, but these are things that a woman can deal with if they're not directed at her. So if he's not taking out his anger and frustration on her and the children, it's okay. You can find a way of calming him down and dealing with that situation. However, when it's directed at you, it becomes an attack. And this is where a lot of women fall into the trap of being patient for the sake of Allah. Okay? He's now abusing you. It's got nothing to do with you. But he's taking it out on you because you are his punching bag. And when you complain about it, people tell you to be patient and tolerate. And this is what a good wife does. Again, we go back to that point. So I would say if someone is going through a hard time, be patient with the financial aspect of things, but always hold them to a high standard morally. Okay, they should always treat you well. They should never stop doing what they usually used to do. Like give you affection, cuddles, the intimacy, all of that shouldn't stop because these are your rights as a husband or wife. But give them space to go for a long walk by themselves. Let them go and do something that will make them feel better, right? Maybe they have an activity, they play golf, whatever it is that they do. Give them the space to do that. They may go to the gym, they may go to see a friend who can help them with their frustration. Maybe this friend can help them get another job. Whatever it is, give them space. Give them space so they don't get frustrated and take things out on you. Because when you enable that to happen, it will continue and it will get worse. Okay, what starts off as verbal abuse will end up being physical abuse if you do not put your foot down with this. Do not accept it fi sabilillah. This is a load of wind. And don't accept anyone telling you that you need to be patient fi sabilillah. They have no idea what they're talking about. And they can't be bothered to keep hearing about this and finding a solution. They don't want to get involved. This is a headache for them. So the quickest way of ending this conversation is be patient, ya ukhti, fi sabilillah. Or be patient, ya akhi, this is what women are like, fi sabilillah. Just khalas, have sabr. Be patient with her. Load of rubbish. They just can't be bothered to be dealing with your problems because they might be dealing with 20 other people's problems as well. So the quickest way to shut a conversation down is, if you want to attain Jannah, be patient. But it's actually in your hands to stop the abuse. It's in your hands. You're the one who either enables it or you put an end to it. Now, I know when you're codependent, it's very difficult, but in these situations, you need to get help to do that. Okay, get the involvement of someone. That's why you have a wali. That's why you have family. That's why you have good friends. That's why you have an imam in your local community. That's his job to come in and mediate. All right? So do not justify abuse and blame it on the circumstances for their bad behavior. Okay, don't do that. You should never do that. You are digging yourself a very deep hole when you do that. Another response is, to be honest, I wanted to get married to be distant from my narc mother. And funnily enough, I married a narcissist. So, yeah, when you run away from a narcissistic family, 9 times out of 10, you will end up with another narcissist because you haven't healed from the issues that you've run from. You've not processed or understood them. So when that happens, you're still in victim mode and you will just run straight into the path of another narcissist. And subconsciously, you will end up with someone who is familiar to you. So they will have the same traits as the abusive people you ran away from. Okay, that's what I said earlier. So yes, many people end up tolerating abuse because they simply enter another trauma bond cycle with someone else who is familiar to them. And another response that I got, which is quite similar, is that someone tolerated breadcrumbs and abuse from someone because it was their second marriage and they had a fear of what others would say and of being alone if they were to divorce a second time. So again, you've got to be really careful with this because you will trap yourself with this mentality if you stay with someone so toxic because you have a fear of what people will say. To hell with what people will say. Because these people are not living with you. They don't know the abuse you're going through. So what people say here is completely irrelevant. Okay, you're just brainwashed and programmed to believe that what you're doing is something shameful when it's not. So in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if you get married 5-6 times, okay, it's not great, not ideal, but if you do, that's more honorable in the sight of Allah than to stay in one toxic marriage and destroy yourself in it for the sake of, not being shamed by what people say. Okay, always remember that. And as for being alone, you can always work on yourself, right? And you can always create a better life for yourself. If you cannot tolerate being alone, if you don't like your own company, you're not healed. You're far from it. Because people come and go in our lives. We can't depend on these people to be happy and feel good about ourselves. Okay, we have to be in a position where we expect to lose everyone. Because people will die. People will move away. People will get married and have their own lives and all of that. Sometimes you will find yourself alone. And if you're uncomfortable with that, you've got a lot of inner work that needs doing. Okay, a lot. Because you need to be in a place where you love your own company. You really love it. So when you see people come and go into your life, you're not affected by it. Yeah, you'll feel sad. You'll feel disappointed. But it won't affect your self-worth and your self-esteem. Ever. So you need to work on being alone. So it's just you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then any relationships that come into your life after that will be the blessing. Because you will be so aware of red flags and your own self-worth and your standards that you will no longer accept deadbeat people into your life. Okay? You have no time for that. There's no time for that. Someone else said, I was taught by social media and movies and books that love is to tolerate the flaws of the other. Okay, this is what I was saying in the last podcast, in podcast 86, where music and books and romance films, they give you a delusional idea of what love is. And loads of people end up tolerating abuse because of this delusional way of understanding love, which is toxic. Okay, that's not what's meant to happen. Yes, you be patient with people's flaws and mistakes when you know that they're unintentional. So they're not doing things to make your life a living hell. It's just they've got bad habits here and there and they say things and do things. that you can brush under the carpet. Okay, maybe they just said a silly joke, but it's not an intentional joke to belittle you or degrade you. Things like that, yeah? And someone else also said that they believe that divorce was not an option in marriage. So once you get married, it's got to be for life. And so you've got to do everything you can to make it work. Again, this is wrong, okay? Not all marriages are going to work out, and that's completely fine. But some people have this romanticized idea of marriage lasting forever without fully understanding that this person might not be who they said they were, and that things can change, circumstances can change, feelings can change. Okay, we've got to be realistic about marriage too. Yes, it's very beautiful to intend to stay with someone until the end of your life, right? It's a beautiful partnership to have. Most people would want that, but that's not always going to happen. So when you place all your hopes and expectations on that happening and then it goes wrong, you'll find yourself tolerating so much abuse to keep it together because you really want to fulfill that dream of being with your husband or wife until the end. And one brother said that he was focusing a lot on the hadith that states if you see something in your wife that you don't like, then turn a blind eye to it and focus on the good in her. Now, this hadith doesn't apply to narcissistic women. It applies to empathic women who make mistakes, like I've just said. Because all humans will. We're all going to make mistakes. We're going to be clumsy. We're going to do things that will upset other people, but these mistakes are unintentional. Okay? They're not intentional, they're unintentional. These are the ones you turn a blind eye to. This is what the hadith means. So I'll read a couple more responses. I have received so many, but these are the ones I grouped together as being the main ones that the majority of people had given as answers to my question. So the next one is, I tolerated abuse and had low standards because I had no money and no family support, and I was also suffering from alopecia. So alopecia is an illness that causes your hair to fall out in huge clumps, okay? So you can actually become bald from it. And it's triggered by an autoimmune disease that comes from stress from narc abuse. I hear so many people have alopecia because they live with someone who is highly abusive. And that's probably why the hair industry is booming right now, because so many people are losing their hair to serious stress. Because when someone starts to develop autoimmune disease, the first thing it does is attacks the hair follicles, and it also attacks the digestive system. So many people who have Crohn's disease got it from narc abuse, and also loads of IBS issues and things like that. So when you develop this autoimmune disease from dealing with your parents and other people growing up, you will believe that you are super lucky to have found someone who has accepted you with this illness and has taken you on, right? As if you're some charity case or something. But unfortunately, a narcissist will use it against you. Empaths definitely won't. But a narcissistic person will always remind you that the reason why you get breadcrumbs in the marriage and you get treated with disrespect is because you have this illness. You know, I accepted you. What more do you want? The same with the child issue, right? They will pick on anything they can to get away with, not investing in the relationship, not giving you what you deserve. So they will always use something, they will hold on to something and use that against you so that you will always have low standards with them. Okay? That's one. The second part of this response was, I've got no money and no supportive family to go to. This is a reason why many women get stuck in abusive marriages, because they really do have nowhere to go. They've got no job because the husband made them quit their job. They have no career. They've got no savings, no investments, no nothing. So I always encourage women to have at least one stream of income when they're married. And an empathic man is not going to be intimidated by that, but a narcissist will, because a narcissist knows he's going to make your life a living hell, and he doesn't want you to have the finances to be able to free yourself. It's not going to happen. He will make sure that doesn't happen. He will deplete your savings. He will keep asking you to borrow money that he never intends on returning. He will make you quit your job. He will make you quit so many things that bring you income because he wants to trap you. And this is a real problem. This is why women need good mahrams. They really need a good family support network. And if you don't have a good family support network, ensure that you have a good friendship network. And if you don't have a good friendship network, you will find other people willing to help you with the government, social housing, shelters. If you need to go to a shelter, there are options. No one is 100% stuck in anything. But I can understand why it's dangerous for some women to leave a toxic relationship, especially if their husband is malignant. And if the woman is malignant, it can be dangerous, right? We know about this from the news and all sorts. But that's another subject for another day, inshallah. But I would say just ensure that you have some sort of independence before you get married, if you're not married yet. Always make sure that you have a stream of income. And never put yourself in a situation where you will be trapped and have this as a reason for having a very low quality of life and tolerating abuse. And the last response I'm going to read out is this. He made me look like I'm the monster and that he is such a nice guy, and I believed it. Okay, so people will gaslight you into believing that because you're such a bad person, because of the reactive abuse, right, that you do not deserve anything good. You deserve bare minimum. You do not even have an allowance. You do not get taken on holidays. You do not get gifts for Eid. You don't get anything. No Umrah trip, nothing. Because you're the bad wife. Or you're the bad husband, whatever. You can apply it to both. So a lot of people get gaslit into believing they are the narcissist and they are the abuser when they stand up for themselves, and then they end up getting into a fight with the narcissist. It gets verbal, it gets ugly, it can get physical. And the narcissist may even record you in this moment and show you, see, you're the abuser. There's nothing for you this week. There's no intimacy, there's no date, there's no this, there's no that. Right? So if they can gaslight you into believing that, then you will spend a long period of time accepting the absolute bare minimum that's needed for basic survival and no good treatment. You'll get abused, you'll get degraded, you'll get reminded every 5 minutes of what a monster you are. Okay, because you stood up for yourself. Like, how dare you stand up for yourself? And they might even launch a smear campaign on you to let everyone know what you're like. They will show videos that they've taken of you, voice recordings of you screaming, swearing, shouting, so that when you do demand your rights, or you get upset and you complain to other people that this person is not doing X, Y, Z for me, other people will back him up or back her up. Well, we heard that recording, we saw that video. I don't think you're in a position to ask him for anything. I don't think that you have the right to be complaining after the way you spoke to him. Now, he will hide his part in everything that provoked you to act like that and that caused you to meet your qareen for the first time head on. Yeah, he won't mention that part. But none of that will be relevant in a community that places a lot of importance on a woman being respectful to a man no matter what he does. Okay, a woman doesn't raise her voice at a man. She doesn't scream. She doesn't swear. She doesn't do this. She doesn't do that. So they will ignore everything he has done, even if they know about it. And all eyes will be on her reaction that they see as toxic, and now she becomes the bad person in the situation, and they don't back her up. And they remind her that no matter what he does, he's your husband. You must honour him and show him respect. But they keep brushing it under the carpet that he physically assaulted you, right? That he neglected you, that he cheated on you, that he did this and this and this. They don't care about any of that because men in toxic communities get away with everything. There are people who cover up for these guys, right? Even if these guys are, in religious positions, they will cover up for each other and the woman is blamed. So for this reason, women who belong to these communities often struggle in these marriages. They continue accepting breadcrumbs. They continue accepting abuse because no one is there to listen. They have nowhere to go. They can't go to their local imam because he's the same. They can't go to the Sharia council because they send her back, because the guy has connections with people in the Sharia council and they're like, no, we're not getting involved. He's our friend. Yeah, a lot of that happens. So a lot of people find themselves stuck in these relationships where they have no choice but to tolerate abuse because they don't have the support to get out. People are standing with the abuser. I hope this has also made it clear as to why people shouldn't stay together just for the children. Because when they see their mothers accept the bare minimum from their husbands and they see their fathers get away with so much abuse, they learn all of this, right? This is childhood programming. It becomes normalized for children that a wife is to be treated in this way, she's not to receive much, and that men can get away with abuse. And this can happen vice versa as well. So some children see their mothers being abusive, controlling, and disrespectful towards their codependent father, and he doesn't stand up for himself, and he's very passive and he's very accepting of what's going on because he's used to it, right? And he doesn't demand more for himself, and he's not looked after by her. He's always neglected by her. So children grow up seeing this entire show, and it's unfair. Okay, they get fed up as well. They get sick of it, they get fed up, and unfortunately they replicate the same relationships in their adulthood if they turn out to be narcissists and codependents, because they've been watching their narcissist father and their codependent mother, or vice versa. So these are the role models they've been given on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so staying together for the sake of the children will damage them if you are in a toxic relationship. So you've got to be really careful about that. And the least you can do is take your issues elsewhere, so you're not fighting in front of them. But even if you don't, children will pick up on tension. They'll pick up on, verbal abuse, emotional abuse. They see it. They see their mother depressed. They see their father angry. So if you can't get out of this relationship, then at least have people to talk to. Have a support network that you can depend on and you can turn to. Because if you say that the reason for you accepting the absolute bare minimum and tolerating abuse is because of the children, so that the family can stay together, then you'll understand now why it's problematic. Okay? Because children don't want to see their mother go through that. Right? So some women get so desperate to keep a family together, they will accept so much bad treatment to stay. And they won't be spoiled or pampered or gifted or treated in a queen-like manner. They won't get that because the husband knows she's only staying because of the children. So he knows she's not going anywhere. So he doesn't invest in her at all. Women do this too. So if a woman knows that you're staying just for the sake of the children, she won't give you anything. She'll give you absolute bare minimum. And she'll get away with not doing that if she can. Okay? So just food for thought, something for you to think about, especially if you're not married yet. This is what you're going to face if you marry the wrong person. Can't say it enough. So I hope that's helped to clarify and bring to the surface the core reasons why a lot of people accept the bare minimum, they have low standards, and they tolerate so much abuse. Okay, I think it's really important for people to understand why, so that we get rid of the judgmental opinions and thoughts that others have of these people who are tolerating abuse. Because, as you can see, people tolerate abuse for a variety of reasons. I'm not saying it's right, but at the same time, this is programming that's happened since childhood. Okay, for them to have such low standards and not be able to navigate life in a healthy way because they didn't have a great father to help them or a loving mother who was there to advise them properly. Okay, everyone is a victim of their own circumstances, but it's up to us to not stay a victim, because being a victim is a very weak state of mind, and Narcissists love to play the victim. That's why they're such weak people. Okay, anyone who plays the victim card time and time again is a very weak person. And you always have the power to get out of that victimhood. Okay, so I hope it's helped you to understand maybe yourselves, right? If you can look back on how you were treated, how you were raised, maybe you'll get an understanding now about why you are the way you are today in your relationship with your friends and your husbands and your wives and your parents and so on. And if you're not in this situation, alhamdulillah, then at least you can understand your friends who are, and your neighbours who are, and your parents who are. Right, at the end of the day, our parents are also victims to their own childhood. So maybe this podcast, inshallah, can help you understand your own parents who are narcissistic or codependent. Okay, so when you understand what they've been through, it's easier to have more compassion towards them. So the resentment and the anger and the rage goes away. You'll find it easier to forgive your parents because of what they've been through, and knowing that they didn't have the opportunities that we do now to get therapy, right? To get help and work through their traumas. So most of our parents will have so many traumas that they were never able to speak about or get help for. So it will be more beneficial for you to look at your parents in that way rather than resent them all your life for the way you were brought up. I know so many people have had childhoods that were horrific and unforgivable. That's different. But I'm talking about when you see heavy codependency in your mother or even in your father. And if you see that your mother is a woman child or your father's a man child, if you look at them with compassion, you'll actually heal yourself. Because there's no point getting angry at someone who never received the help they needed. Okay, so if you have the opportunity to get that help and it will help you with your relationships as well. Now, your parents are different from your husbands or wives. Okay, so your parents are your parents. But you can divorce a husband or wife and you can change your friends. If they are highly abusive, you don't have to tolerate any of that. You can have compassion for them and the disturbed childhood they had, but if they're not getting help for their own childhood traumas, it's not your place. It's not your place at all to be tolerating their abuse. That's their problem and not yours. Okay, if they're not getting the help they need to work through their own issues and personality disorder, why are you tolerating all of their rubbish? It's come as a result of them not getting the help they need because they don't want to get the help they need. Okay, so here, a divorce would be much safer for you. You don't have to tolerate that. With your parents, it's different because you can't change your parents. You can distance yourself from them, but you can't change them. You can't divorce them. So you'll get reward for treating them with compassion when you know that they're struggling with their own traumas. But with a husband or wife and with friends who are insistent on making your life a living hell, no. They have to go. Okay? They are replaceable. And I have many clients who tell me that they are really struggling in their relationships with their parents, and I tell them, maintain a distance until the parent realizes that they also have inner work to do on themselves, because it won't work if it's one-sided. But at least have the compassion towards them so that you don't feel hate towards them. Okay, that's why I've recorded this, for you to understand why people end up tolerating so much abuse and having low standards. Now you know. And if you resonate with this podcast, if you've pinpointed where your issues lie and why you're in an abusive relationship and you want help with processing traumas and things like that, or even just moving on to a better life, inshallah, and a better marriage, if you need help with navigating all of that, you can contact me about one-to-one counselling and coaching services. My email's below, or you can click on the link below to submit an application form, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I'd just like to kindly remind you to like the podcast if you found it beneficial. Do share it with others, and do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more related content. Okay, so I'll leave it here. Thank you for listening until now if you're still with me. May Allah bless you, inshallah. Until the next podcast, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.